Hi there. This is the first session of Morgan Comics on Thursday nights. Today we met together with the adventuring group for the first time, and they got to go through an adventure together. And so it was a great way for us to try and figure out how everyone runs and try and understand all the different characters, their classes, and their race, and let people shine. Dagan is a half-elf thief. He is very light on his feet, and he also sports a companion, which is a ferret named Raffles, that likes to cozy up around his neck. We have Cab, who is a full elf ranger, who has an interesting past that she's keeping hidden from everyone. We have Deerin, who is a tiefling hexblade warlock, so really good for melee combat and for bashing people over the head with his Morningstar. And finally, we have Enduriel, who is a elf druid. He is completely in tune with nature and uses it in order to calm himself when he gets too angry. So the adventurers met at the Green Dragon Inn, a bustling inn at the cornerstone of an outpost. And in doing so, they got to introduce themselves and talk a little bit, order off the menu, and they found a little bit of information about the local going-ons of this town. Apparently there are some goblins that have been raiding nearby, and they've ransacked a lot of carts and taken people's possessions. On top of that, there's also a mysterious character inside of the inn that is a debonair Spaniard by the name of Hector Alarosa, who is conning people for their money. So the characters went to go investigate this smooth-talking Spaniard and see if maybe they could win a little bit of the coins from his purse. First, they decided to engage in this arm wrestling competition with Hector. In order to help out their compatriot, every one of the characters decided to do something to either distract or to try and get Hector off his game. And Duriel decided to reach out with his druidic powers to try and convince the animal companion of Hector, which is a mole that sits on his shoulder, to bite Hector's ear. But he rolled very badly, and the mole actually demonstrated that he has a telepathic power, and he assaulted Enduriel's mind, dealing 3 damage. Then, Dagan tried to roll some ball bearings to get people to trip over and distract Hector. But Hector's been in a couple inns and taverns before, and he understands how inebriated people work. And then Cab tried to pull out a stringed instrument and distract everyone inside of the tavern. But she played so badly that she got some beer spilled on her. Unfortunately, Darren lost, and he had put up his lucky harmonica. But Hector Alarosa, being a lover of music, decided not to part the individual with a harmonica. Instead, he asked them to buy him drinks. Hector joined them and started talking to them about the local going-ons of the town. He told them about some goblin raids. He told them about the invincible overlord that tends to rule over the area. And as he was talking about some of the unsavory characters that he's come across, the doors burst open and an individual clad in a large apron, smelling of sulfur and holding on to a wood-handled mallet, says that they took him. They stole his son, Peter. So the blacksmith needs help, and the party decided to jump to his aid. So the players decided to take on the task of rescuing Peter, and they travel in searching of the footprints of the goblins. They track the footprints to the edge of the woods, in which they encounter a large stone structure that is just sitting vacant, with the doors burst open. All the characters decide that it's probably best if they wait and see what happens, so they take up positions. Some of them go up in trees, others decide to lay low, and Dagan, having experience trying to lure enemies away, ties a bell onto his animal companion Raffles. Raffles goes out, starts making some noise. Lo and behold, the patrol of goblins waiting around the corner gets lured over by the sound of the bell, and they, in turn, fall into an ambush from our players. The players roll their first attacks, and each attack ends up killing a goblin, not even giving the goblins a chance in order to strike back. Now done with the patrol, the characters decide to enter into the tomb. I took this tomb from Matt Colville, and I fully endorse watching his YouTube channel if you are an aspiring DM, because it gives a lot of information and some pretty useful hints in case you're deciding to run D&D. So the characters decide to enter into the tomb, and when they come across an open area with a brazier in the middle, they notice a mural on the wall. It has knights that are fighting ogres. Underneath of the mural, they see that there is a quote that's written in fine calligraphy. And this quote says, "I, Victor Ortoris, swear to protect those in need and lend virtue when needed, to shine a light in the darkness so all may see." Immediately, the characters are thinking, this brazier right here, we need to light it. But they don't know what's going to happen, and they need to rescue Peter without triggering alarm, so they decide to hold off on that and continue into the tomb. As they're walking forward, Deerin is taking point, and he unknowingly steps on a triggered trap. By stepping on a stone, he releases a scythe swinging from the ceiling that ends up cutting him. The rest of the party, now being a little wary, decides to trudge forward very cautiously. Dagon actually uses Raffles in order to check for traps, and doesn't find any. They reach the corner, look around, and they see that there are 4 goblins, one of them being a shaman, who is chanting and sharpening a blade. Underneath of the shaman is Peter, the boy, stuck inside of a cage, filthy and crying and exhausted. And then next to this cage, we see another figure who's a bugbear. We also see a statue that's at the very end of the room that's depicting one of the knights from the mural holding on to his sword. So the players decide that the best course of action is to tread carefully and decide to enter into the room and attack stealthily. Each one of them rolls their stealth rolls, and all of them except for one pass. Deerin, when walking forward, accidentally slips onto a rock, steadying himself onto a wall, and his morning star clatters against it. Suddenly, all of the goblins turn around, their eyes gleaming off of the light, and initiative starts. The battle ensues, everyone fights. Right off the bat, the goblins do massive damage by using their short bows, and they teach the characters that this isn't going to be a walk in the park. Thinking very fast, Enduriel tries to trap 4 of the different enemies by using Entangle, and succeeds. But he also unintentionally traps Dagon as well. While Deerin trudges forward, taking up the attention of the bugbear, making sure that he doesn't attack anyone else. Dagon, all the while, trying to use his short sword in order to make quick work of the goblin shaman. As Dagon's attacking him, the shaman reaches over trying to grab onto a staff, however, isn't fast enough. Trying to kill the shaman before he reaches for the staff is unsuccessful. However, he sends Raffles on top of the shaman to try and relieve him of the keys. All the while, Enduriel looses another arrow and is able to kill the shaman in his stead. Other characters do quick work against all the different goblins until all that's left is the bugbear and 2 goblins. Bugbear, doing massive damage against Deerin, almost has him close to death until Cab looses another arrow, distracting the bugbear and infuriating him. As the bugbear charges towards Cab, Deerin is able to have an attack of opportunity and able to finish the bugbear. The other 2 goblins realize that this is just not worth their effort. One of them throws down his weapons, and the other one aims his bow directly at the child Peter, saying that they want to leave. The characters decide to let the goblins go. However, when they're near the door, Enduriel decides to use Thorn Whip to try and relieve the bow away from one of the goblins so he doesn't actually hit Peter. Enduriel isn't able to grab the bow, but he does make the whip sound that spooks the goblin enough for him to shoot his arrow harmlessly against the wall. The goblins then run as fast as they can out of there, and the characters have defeated their first encounter. The characters, now safe with the boy, decide to take a long rest and to ensure that if anything does poke up later on, they're able to have full hit points and all their spells. Interested in the statue, Dagon decides to go over and investigate it, and in doing so, he finds a riddle underneath. Before you may keep it, you must first give it to me. Trying everything he can with the statue itself, he realizes that something else must be the answer. So he investigates and he finds that there is a hidden secret door behind one of the walls. The characters decide that in order to unlock this, they probably have to do something with the brazier. So they go over to the beginning room and they light it. In doing so, the door swings open. The characters walk into the hidden room and they realize that they are in the middle of a crypt. 5 different stone sarcophagi exist in this, with the one at the very front having a symbol of a crown on it. Characters, deciding whether it's safe to proceed, start to talk about their options. This is where Cab decides to discuss the oath that she first read at the entrance, and when she finishes, the sarcophagi lids open, and skeletons suddenly rise from their graves. The party gets ready to fight, however, the skeletons don't fight them. They bow their head in reverence towards Cab, and they beckon her forward to the leader, who's holding a box. Cab reaches out, takes the box, and cautiously, all the characters return towards the statue room. In doing so, all the skeletons return back to their crypt. When the characters get back, they look through the box, and they find 3 items. The first is a ring, with stamps of different animals adorning it, along the band. The second is a scroll, in which Enduriel is able to decipher and figure out that it's a scroll of sanctuary. And the third item is a short sword, of incredible make that seems to have some sort of magic aura around it. The characters, now happy with their items, decide to take them and the boy back to the blacksmith to see if maybe the blacksmith can give more information about what's going on in this area. They return Peter to his father, he rewards them with coin and tells them a little bit about the tomb of the Delian Order. They were knights that protected the land a long time ago when ogres came down from the mountains to attack villagers. The blacksmith, not really liking magic, decides to stay away from the items, but he does give them a little bit of information on how to use them. While the characters are in conversation with the blacksmith, a loud bell tends to toll in the background. The blacksmith looks over and, staring into the distance where the town is, says, "That's not good." That's where we ended. The characters were able to introduce themselves, have some moments of combat, finish a tomb, and return the child to his father. When they come back next week, they're going to investigate what's happening in the town and why is the bell tolling. Thanks for listening. This was the video diary of Morgan's Comics on Thursday nights where we run D&D, and we are abiding by all COVID restrictions, social distancing, and limiting the amount of characters that are present. However, if you are interested in following along, or you want to learn more about D&D, stop on by to Morgan's Comics, and everyone there will be able to help you. Come back next week, and we'll tell you a little bit about what happens in Session 2. Bye now!